Welcome to Lesson 14 of How to Understand Quranic Grammar series. In this lesson, we continue our journey to learn the Harf, which is the Arabic particle. Last lesson, we completed discussing the first of four particle types, which was the particles of jar. And today we discuss the second type, which is the particles of Nasb. So let's get started. Just like the particles of jar, particles of Nasb also consist of two types. The first type of Nasb particles can only be used before nouns or pronouns. And then there is another type of Nasb particles, which is only used before verbs. But that will be the topic of our next lesson, inshallah. So today, we'll focus on the first type, which is Nasb particles that occur before nouns or pronouns. There are 6 of them. Inna, anna, ka'anna, layta, lakinna, and la'alla. These 6 particles are also called inna wa akhawatuha, or inna and its sisters. The easy thing about these particles is that there are no exceptions in terms of how they affect the nouns coming after them, which is causing them to have nasb, which is in most cases given by means of fatha. So let's begin with the first one of these nasb particles, which is inna. The word inna with a kasra under the hamza can only be used at the beginning of sentences. And when that happens, it adds emphasis to the meaning of the entire sentence. That's why it is best translated to surely or verily. But just like other particles, on its own, it has little to no meaning, and it has to function within the context. In this coming example, we understand more what it means when we say that inna can only be used to start a new sentence. Inna Allaha yudafi'u 'anil ladhina amanu. Inna Allaha la yuhibbu kulla khawanin kafur. That's why you will see inna like that, either at the beginning of an ayah or after a stopping sign, which can be a very helpful indicator to know where sentences start in the Quran. And that is important to know how to stop and resume your recitation correctly. In rare instances, however, it comes as a part of a quote, so it has to be read as part of the quote and not isolated to keep the meaning of the ayah intact. وَوَصَّى بِهَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ بَنِيهِ وَيَعْقُوبُ يَا بَنِيَّ إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَى لَكُمُ الدِّينَ. Inna can also be attached to other parts before it and after it, and when that happens, it becomes more flexible as to where it occurs in the sentence, but still, it will have a complete sentence after it, like in these examples. وَمَن تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ شَاكِرٌ عَلِيمٌ. So here, inna is attached to something else, and that's why you can see it is used more flexibly in the sentence. But still, it functions exactly as it should, and it is followed by a noun that has fatha on top of it. Moreover, when inna is followed by the plural pronoun suffix na, we will end up with this combination, inna, where the noon is doubled, so it has shadda, And this entire combination would then mean indeed we or surely we. And this is an example for this combination. الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Don't forget to pronounce the alif at the end of this combination clearly, because this is going to be the difference between two different words and two different meanings. So here you can't say Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That is not correct, because you turned inna, including the pronoun we, into inna with a fatha only, and that is a different meaning. So don't forget to pronounce the alif completely with its natural mad so that the meaning of the ayah will be correct. Moving on to the next particle, which is anna. And notice here the hamza is on top and therefore it has fatha, which is different from the previous one. In terms of meaning, anna means that, but it also adds emphasis to the meaning of the sentence. But when it comes to how it's used, anna can only be used in the middle of the sentence, unlike inna, which is more flexible and mainly used at the beginning of sentences. And we see anna used in this coming example. اعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب وأن الله غفور رحيم. And here we can clearly see that in this example, the word Allah in both instances has fatha on it. And this is the effect of anna, because it adds nasb or fatha to the word coming after it. The next particle is كأن, and كأن means as if or as though. And it is used in the Quran to draw examples and give metaphors in many situations to show the meaning of the ayah even more clearly. Interestingly, the word كأن is used much more commonly attached to a pronoun than it is used separately, like in this example. وَإِذْ نَتَقْنَا الْجَبَلَ فَوْقَهُمْ كَأَنَّهُ ظُلَّةٌ يَسْأَلُونَكَ كَأَنَّكَ حَفِيٌّ عَنْهَا. The next particle is لَيْتَ, and it means if only, and it is used when wishing for something that could have happened, but it didn't. So it is used to convey deep regret. This particle is not as important as the rest on today's list, because it was only used 2 times in the Quran, and this is one of them. وَلَوْ تَرَى إِذْ وُقِفُوا عَلَى النَّارِ فَقَالُوا يَا لَيْتَنَا نُرَدُّ. The next particle is Lakinna. Notice how I said Lakinna with shadda on the noon at the end of the word, and that I didn't say lakin without the shadda, because these are definitely not the same, and you should pay attention not to mix them up together. Lakinna means on the contrary, or but, and it can be followed by nouns only. However, lakin is more flexible and can occur in different situations, so it will be followed by verbs, nouns, pronouns, and different contexts. And we see lakinna used in these examples. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنِ اتَّقَى ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون. One last thing to pay attention to when dealing with Lakinna, which is not mixing up these two together. This first one here is Lakinna with an alif at the end, a noon with shadda. This is actually lakin plus the plural pronoun suffix na. So the shadda on the noon comes from the two noons that were fused together into one noon with a shadda. While this word here is actually the same as lakinna, but it is written differently in this position with an alif at the end. This alif has the zero sign on it, which means that it should not be pronounced when you keep on reading. But if you stop at the word, you will pronounce the alif. And here is the difference in pronunciation between the two words. وَلَكِنَّا حُمِّلْنَا أَوْزَارًا مِّن زِينَةِ الْقَوْمِ لَكِنَّ هُوَ اللَّهُ رَبِّي. So that first one means but we. There is a pronoun integrated in the word, and that it functions differently, as you can see, since it is followed by a verb. But the second one has the same meaning as lakinna without the alif. But this is how it was written in the Uthmani Mus'haf, and we're keeping it exactly like that. Finally, is the particle la'alla, which means perhaps. This particle is quite common in the Quran, and you will specially see it used attached to pronouns, and it causes the noun after it to have Nasb or Fatha, like in these examples. لا تدري لعل الله يحدث بعد ذلك أمرا ثم عفونا عنكم من بعد ذلك لعلكم تشكرون. Finally, as you might have noticed, and as was the case with jar particles, when any of these nasb particles have a pronoun attached at the end of them, they will not receive nasb or fatha, and that they will keep their vowel. And we can see this phenomenon happening in these two examples. إنه الحق من ربك إنهم ملاقو ربهم ولكني أراكم قوما تجهلون. So the most important takeaway of this lesson is that these 6 particles cause the noun after them to have nasb, or adding fatha to the end of the word that comes after them. The most important thing to pay good attention to is the differences between inna and anna, and also the differences between lakinna and lakin. Thanks for watching. If you want to start your journey to learn the tajweed of the Quran, you can click on this link. And if you want to understand the Quran in Arabic, then you should click on that link. And finally, I hope you've learned something new today, and I will see you next time.